another episode of Cooking with Brad, brought to you by Boston College Dining Services. Today we're going to be working on knife skills. So the other day I got a text message from a friend who I will not name with this picture. It's a knife. And the question that said below is, what is this knife and what's it used for? And I said, that's a steak knife. It's used for cutting steak. And then my friend Joe said, so it's not for cutting onions? And I said, no, you should use a chef's knife for that. That's really dangerous. You could cut yourself. So then Joe promptly sends me a video of his wife, Lauren, cutting onions with a steak knife. Now, the reason why it's dangerous is you can see that that steak knife is not made for chopping. It's made for cutting steak. So there's a lot of different knives in a kitchen, and using them properly is really what makes them safer. So today, we're going to review the chef's knife and how to cut onions so that way we can have a safer kitchen. Because as you see here, a steak knife is not a great way to cut a grapefruit either. So this is our chef's knife. This is the knife that we're going to be using today. I'm also going to use a nikiri knife, which is a Japanese vegetable knife, but we'll ignore that for now. So the chef's knife's designed for chopping, and when we hold our knife when we're using it, we want to make sure we hold it by the blade. This gives us the most stability when using the blade. We don't want to just put our finger on top or just hold it by the back handle. We want to grip the blade because that gives us more control and it's a lot safer. So when we're using our knife, we want to make sure our fingers are curled back. We don't want to have them out like I have them here. And the reason for that is we could cut them. If we curl our hand and we can guide our knife right on the knuckle like this. And when we do that, we have to move our hand backwards while pushing from behind. And that's how you continually cut your vegetables as you're moving along. The other option to do is start to curl your knuckles back a little bit. And what that can do is it allows the knife to continue moving down, but it doesn't allow you to cut your fingertips. So doing that, you end up slowly rotating your hand back until you can't rotate to a safe distance, and then you move your hand and then do it over again. You'll see this when I'm doing the dice later on. A great way to practice your knife skills is to use an onion. The onion is so versatile, it's used in a ton of different things, and to have it on hand is awesome. So today we're going to do a julienne cut and a dice cut with our onions. So to start, I'm just taking off the ends and cutting it in half. This will allow me to peel the onion and get ready to do our cuts. And there's a bunch of different ways you can peel it. You can peel it by hand, or if it gets stuck, you can use a knife, whatever you like. Anyways, so with the onion, we're going to do a julienne cut to start. And then we're going to do a dice cut right after. So for the julienne cut, what we're going to end up doing is getting it on our board, and we're going to cut off the root end. And when we do our dice cut, we like to leave that root end intact so it doesn't all fall apart on us. But when we're doing the julienne, we can cut that away. Now, a julienne is a 1/8 thickness cut. Now, this is not how you julienne something. This is called a rainbow cut, and just don't ever do that. Just don't. Anyways, so the julienne cut is a 1/8 cut that we're going to do around the onion. And when I say 1/8, I mean 1/8 inch. And what we do is just roll kind of as we go around the onion. Now, to do a dice, you're going to make these horizontal cuts into the onion first. For a medium dice, which we're doing here, we're going to do about 3, maybe 4, depending on our size of our onion. Now, what I'm using, if you see, I'm just using the tip there, and it's a little struggle. But if I use the full length of the knife, I can go right through. And what I'm doing with my hands, my left hand on top, is you can see, is I'm keeping it way above where the blade is. Now, I come back and make these vertical cuts and go all the way down the onion. Rotate it and adjust for the thickness of the dice. With a medium dice, you're looking for a 3/8 inch, and that's what we'll go for. You'll be left with the root end, so you just have to go around and make some cuts to get your final dice. All that onion in the back is still good to use. Now, that's one way to cut an onion, and it's a pretty advanced way, I would say. It's probably the most professional way. So I'm actually switching knives here only because I think it's sharper, and a sharp knife is really what you want. If you have a knife that's dull, it's a lot more dangerous. As you saw when I didn't use the full part of the knife in the last dice video, it got a little cut or caught up. And here, this knife's super sharp, so I'm not really worried about it. Anyways, so this is another way to dice an onion. So what I've done is I've cut the onion into quarters and I've peeled off a couple of layers. This is 3 layers right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and make vertical cuts for the size that I want. And then I'm going to rotate it and start to cut my dice out. Now, this is a much safer way to do it. It's a little bit more accurate, and it doesn't matter. We're not going for 3 Michelin stars here, and if you are, kudos. But the idea is that, making it easy for yourself and getting a good dice is what we're looking for. So you just go through the whole onion this way. Now, that's a small dice. If we want to do like a brunoise or something smaller, we make smaller incisions. So here I'm making those 1/8 inch cuts like we would a julienne, and then going back and then cutting for a brunoise, which is a smaller cut than a small dice. Now, if you didn't feel comfortable doing the julienne with the other method as well, you can take these petals and just make your julienne out of these. It's a little bit slower, but it's better to be more comfortable with it so you don't cut yourself.
It's time for another pro tip.
This week's pro tip comes from the restaurant industry. These are pint and quart containers. You often get them in takeout food, and they're definitely not trash. These are gold in a restaurant. They hold all your mise en place, which is a fancy French word for things in its place. And what we do in the restaurants is we cut all our vegetables and other things for service and put them in these containers. So when we are cooking your food to order, we take the onions or peppers or what have you out of the containers and put them into our saute pans. So what I like to do at home is get my vegetables early in the week, cut them, and then store them in these containers and put them in the fridge. It allows me not to have to cut everything when I get home because everything's already done for me. And what I do when I cut all my vegetables is I make sure I label them. So I just grab a piece of masking tape and a marker. Of course, it's always the worst trying to find the start of the tape, but and just write what's on there. You should write the date as well so you know if stuff is being rotated in your fridge. You don't have like old onions just stinking up the place. But once you do that, it really makes it easy to cook at home, and hopefully these little tricks will make it easier for you.